Hey y'all, and thanks for tuning in for this paranormal pit stop. Tonight, we'll be exploring the reconstruction of a historic fortification located just off of Colorado State Route 194, around 8 miles to the east of La Junta in southeastern Colorado. Recognized through its operation as the only major American permanent settlement on the Sante Fe Trail between Missouri and Mexican settlements, and rumored to hold a number of ghostly presences tied to its past. Are you ready to brave the history and hauntings of Bent's Old Fort National Historic Site? Historically, this defense was initially established in 1833 under a company owned by brothers Charles and William Bent and Sarin St. Vrain in an effort to streamline trade amongst the Southern Cheyenne and Arapaho Plains tribes, along with trappers and huntsmen of the area. As expected, the fort would grow wildly in popularity and would act as a central hub to the Bent St. Vrain Company, which would eventually expand to include Fort St. Vrain to the north, Fort Adobe to the south, and company stores in Santa Fe and Taos, New Mexico. In 1835, William would fall in love with and marry Owl Woman of the Cheyenne, though sadly she would later pass on in childbirth, and as was her tribe's custom, he would go on to remarry her sister, Yellow Woman. Over time, Bent would gain the respect of the tribes, and eventually would even work as an ally of the US government in several serious peace negotiations. Bent's Fort would act as a popular stop along the Sante Fe Trail, as the only settlement not under the jurisdiction and control of either native tribes or Mexican forces, and as such, it was utilized as a supply and maintenance depot by the Army and all manner of American explorers, travelers, and traders. In 1846, through the Mexican-American War, the aged defense would act as a rendezvous for Colonel Stephen Watts Kearny and his Army of the West, and was favored by the military man so that he would even select it as a rally point in the invasion of New Mexico. Though, as one can imagine, this didn't sit well with Bent. Sadly, in 1849, a massive wave of cholera would severely affect nearby Cheyenne and other Plains tribes, resulting in William's abandonment of the fort, and some claim in him razing it to prevent further use by those who would militarize the site against passive native peoples, before moving his operations to Fort St. Vrain. Through the 1860s, the only standing remnant of this once prestigious defense was renovated by the Missouri Stage Company and would act as a stop through the 1880s. Nearly a century following, on June 3rd of 1960, the property would be honored as a National Historic Site under the NPS, and later the same year, the expanse was designated as a National Historic Landmark. In 1976, Bent's Old Fort was meticulously reconstructed by scholars and experts who utilized findings from excavations, original paintings, diaries, sketches, and other existing data in order to recreate its true image. Bent's Old Fort National Historic Site remains open into the present, accommodating around 30,000 annual visitors, while offering educational tours, activities, and events each year. Throughout his lifetime, William Bent would stand as a firm proponent of understanding between settlers and tribes. He would require his employees document all bartering and trades to ensure their fairness, and would even heavily restrict the use of whiskey in business dealings to prevent potential conflict. As a whole, his fort would employ around 60, including carpenters, blacksmiths, gunsmiths, and more, and it's told that walking about the locale, at any time, one could hear up to 6 different languages being spoken, as its citizens lived and worked together in harmony. Local legend tells this atmosphere of total peace, love, and community would build a true home for a number of souls, and it's rumored that following their earthly passing, their energies simply returned to the one place in life where they felt they actually belonged, or were truly accepted, and those frequenting the site into modern times have reported disembodied voices also in a variety of languages, heard from empty spaces, footsteps that emanate from vacant walks, and the sounds of children laughing and playing, seemingly carried on the winds. Tragically, the 1849 California gold rush would introduce an influx of settlers to the region, most of whom arrived on the Sante Fe Trail, and the number one cause of death on said journeys was disease, one of the worst of which was cholera, which could quickly level an entire wagon train. A massive cholera epidemic would strike St. Louis, Missouri through 1849, during which time a range of sick travelers would be sent off down the Sante Fe Trail to unknowingly spread the ailment to native tribes and other frontier communities. It's documented that this plague would claim around 2/3 of the Southern Cheyenne populace and around half of the local Pawnee between the years of 1849 and 1852 alone, while reports amongst Comanche speak of survivors being so weak they lack the strength to properly bury their dead, and tales from Arapaho detailing entire families losing hope and committing suicide. No less than 13 resulting graves have been recognized in the cemetery just outside of the fort, 12 of which lie unmarked, and those who have braved these old burial grounds have reported strange light spied drifting about weathered markers, and encounters with the full-bodied apparition of a sobbing woman. Reported across the whole of both fort and cemetery grounds are the phantom smells of gunpowder, tobacco, fire smoke, and food with no discernible source, orbs and strange mists in the backgrounds of photography, inexplicable electrical malfunctions, extreme cold spots, the constant feelings of being watched, followed, or even of being touched by a presence unseen, and encounters with full-bodied apparitions in clothing from the 1800s, believed to be former residents and passers-through who may have made their final stops at Bent's before perishing in the abundant, encompassing wilderness. Also detailed across the expanse are run-ins with entities in old-fashioned cavalry attire who disappear when approached, and tales of shadowy manifestations spied stalking the living. Thanks for joining us on this Paranormal Pit Stop. If you enjoyed our histories and ghost stories, go ahead and subscribe to our channel, throw us a like, and share us with anyone you feel deserves a good scare. Until next time.